Hey, Arsgat here, and it's time to talk about Hell's Paradise. And this episode, we finally have Gabimaru being back, which feels like forever since he got into the fight with Ran. We didn't know his state. I was more than sure they weren't gonna kill him, but there's always that small chance. Would have been interesting if a main character actually dies this much into a series here, but it didn't happen. We still had a cool fight. It wasn't more about defeating Ran, like physically overpowering him, becoming stronger than him, which I actually like that aspect quite a lot because the Tencent definitely have the upper hand when it comes to power and Tao. And here was more of a long con, so to say, to defeat Ran here, and I really liked that aspect. And I feel like Yuzuriha kind of shined more in this episode than Gabimaru. So let's get into it and talk a bit about it. Now, at the start, we see a bit of Gabimaru's flashbacks from when he used to be a ninja in the village. Even the other ninjas feeling that he changed a bit with his perspective on killing since he got married. And I have to say, Yui is probably one of the best wives in anime in general. Imagine having her in your corner. What more can you ask her? How much she loved him, how much she cared about him, how much she changed him, opened his eyes, so to say, to life, and changed him as a person for the better. Always being there for him, especially when he got back home after a mission to kill somebody. He didn't want her to touch him, but she instantly jumped and hugged him, being there for him. Having somebody that is there for you this much, insane. Yui needs to be protected, and can't wait for Gabimaru to get back to her. There has to be, that scene is just, I can't wait for it to happen, but probably gonna be a long way before that happens here. But we see how far he's willing to push himself, actually abandoning his humanity and injecting himself with the plant Tao, the flower, to transform kind of a bit like Kyobei did it, which we're gonna get into that. He gets back up, he's able to get the regeneration, but he's kind of in a race against time. He has to find that balance between his own life and becoming a flower or turning into a thunder and Tao before he gets consumed. And it's easier said than done. Like, we finally have the fight, Gabimaru versus Ran, round 2. And I liked, like, he got a bit of endurance, he was able to regen, but it's not like he was suddenly stronger right now than Ran. Ran was still overpowering him, and I really liked that quite a lot here. And we see how hard it is to find that balance. Even Mei saying, and them talk a bit in the past, the flashbacks, Kyobei did it while he was on the verge of death, losing, not having those thoughts, unnecessary feelings, thinking, just focusing on that regen. But also Kyobei has a very strong sense of self, and this kind of plays a lot into Gabimaru, how he was raised being a ninja, no sense of self. You see them sacrificing instantly, and Yui is the one that changed him, allowed him to have a goal, a purpose in life, and more of sense of self for him to survive. And she's the one that kind of allowed him to push himself this far there. And it's not gonna be that easy. Right now, like I said, he's still regening, but they're not gonna win against Ran. No matter if you can regen, he's still much stronger, and he also has the regeneration, and also hindering Gabimaru stuff. So yes, you can regen, but congrats, you're gonna die slower here with this fight. So they all both have the same weakness now. Gabimaru also, if he gets his tendon cut, same as Ran, despite of the power difference here. And I like how Yuzuriha, that's why I said she kind of stole a bit of the show in this episode, even from Gabimaru, at least for me, calling him a freak, still doing this for uncertainty, still thinking, not knowing for sure if his wife is real or not. And we know how much faith Gabimaru has in that. And I like his answer there. There are only places that a fool can reach, which is very true. If you're just always calculated, logical, you might miss something, you're not gonna push yourself forward, you're not gonna take a chance, a gamble, or things like that. And she still, while she said that, she still did it there. So Yuzuriha joins the fight, and we have them throwing everything they could at Ran, ninjutsu, all of it still didn't work. The fight continued, both of them using everything they had versus Ran. But yeah, it's not gonna be easy to defeat somebody that's that much stronger than you. But their plan wasn't to overwhelm Ran to defeat him 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 1. They're stalling for time thanks to the transformation. We see it in the flashbacks. When they transform, even the Tensen consume a lot of Tao there. And after the transformation expires, it takes like 1 hour. They lose all of it. They're kind of in a weakened state here. And I like how they, Gabimaru used the ninja techniques, the torture, to make Ran's perception of time be diffused a bit, messing with it there, overwhelming his senses there, and he didn't realize that 1 hour has passed there. He undoes his transformation to be at least have a list of Tao, a list of power, but they already brought him to that point. We see him weakened here, but also Yuzuriha was still wounded, not really able to fight at full strength. That cut was very deep, and we're gonna get into that. And she still didn't want to risk her life. I like how she was a bit of a contradiction, saying she's not gonna risk her life, and she still does it. While Ran was throwing all of those spikes at Gabimaru there, he was fighting with everything. She's able to work with him and actually cuts Ran's stand. And so this was the long con fight. They didn't win with strength. They had a better plan going in, and they took some big risks, chances, gambling, because without that, them being fools, they wouldn't have won here. And I really liked that. And Gabimaru kind of pushed this change into Yuzuriha a bit, but he still has that time bomb, ticking inside of him. Is he gonna turn into a plant? Is he not? He's probably gonna master this, but he still hasn't mastered it here. So for him to find this balance is gonna be interesting how he's going to do it, because it's a bit different from Chobei and him. Different personalities, different things. Wasn't as much as injected into him. So we're gonna have to see how this is gonna affect them. But I really like how, hey, we won the fight, time to push forward. Instantly, while Yuzuriha was still wounded, they're telling him to go ahead. And I liked the genuine moment when Gabimaru thanking her there. I'm gonna wait for you, you're gonna be there, right? And here is where we see Yuzuriha was actually much more wounded than she let on. She likes to hide things. She's not very forthcoming with her emotions, feelings, hiding a lot of things. And what I liked a lot more is how she finally revealed her actual appearance, how many scars she has on her body, and goddamn, those look cool. Those scars are very, very hot there, and shows a lot more of her character, at least how much she was hiding of herself. We see a bit of a flashback with her sister telling her to focus on the happy things in life here. So when she undid the jutsu, she had to hide that wound, how much blood was pouring out. I don't think they're gonna kill Yuzuriha, but she's in a very, very bad state. I would actually be very surprised if Yuzuriha dies. It's still that kind of series, it can still happen, but I don't want it to happen. Yuzuriha is too much of a cool character there, but she definitely stole the show for me in this episode for character development, to say that. Now after this, we're gonna have to see what happens on the other side with Guifa, Sagiri and Mei. Guifa just saying they don't really care about the other Tencent, they're not really unified like a family. She's even willing to leave Sagiri and Mei alone to go report to Rian there. And I like how Mei saying she understands life now, how much it changed her, everything that happened since she was thrown out here. But before anything more could happen, Hyugen shows up, trembling everything there with the monsters. Felt like an earthquake. I thought something else was happening, but it was just Hyugen and chaos being brought in. So a lot more things are gonna be happening on this island, and they're not gonna be resolved in one episode unless we have a Promise Neverland situation here. We're gonna need at least one more season. Let me know in the comments below if you've read the source material, how many more episodes do you think we need, because one episode is definitely not enough. So I hope we're gonna get a season 3 announcement when we get to last episode, but that's gonna be next week. We're gonna talk a bit more overall about the series, the season until then. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this episode. What do you think about the fight against Ran? What do you think about Gabimaru and especially Yuzuriha? So as always, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, helps me quite a lot, and you guys get the latest videos on the series that I follow. So keep enjoying Hell's Paradise. I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye bye.